Welcome to America's Top Rebbetzins. In the merit of this class, may Hashem watch over all the Jewish people and give enormous strength to the IDF soldiers, including Eliezer Raphael ben Emunah, Ishai ben Zohar, Israel ben Bella, and Israel ben Devorah. Please click on the subscribe button to subscribe to us on the America's Top Rebbetzins YouTube page, or click follow to follow us on your podcasting app so that you are the first to know when an inspiring new episode is posted. My name is Vera Kessler. I'm a certified life coach and accountability coach. I help women step into the version of themselves who knows that their need to love themselves must be greater than their need for somebody else to love them. So if that sounds like something that you would like to explore, I invite you to call me. The link to my website is in the show notes below. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Rebbetzin Tzipah Wertheimer to our show. Rebbetzin Tzipah, along with her husband, Rabbi Shaul Wertheimer, run the Chabad on campus of Queens in Queens, New York. She was born and raised in Rockland County, New York. Rebbetzin Tzipah, she attended Reuben Gittleman Hebrew Day School, and then she went on to the first school in Paramus, New Jersey. After graduating from high school, she went to Israel to study at Mahon Gold College for Women, and then she came back to America when she enrolled in SUNY Binghamton and was involved with the Chabad House in Hillel. After completing her studies in 3 years, Rebbetzin Tzipah went back to Israel to study at Mahon Alta of Tzfat. She later returned to New York, got married, and embarked on her journey in Queens in November of 2004. Rebbetzin Tzipah has audio classes on Chabad.org, and she was published in the Huffington Post. Thank you so much for being here. Please tell us more about yourself and what you do.
Hi, thank you so much. I think I wrote up some of those bio notes a long time ago. It's a good reminder. So for about 20 years, since November of 2004, my husband and I have been running Chabad at Queens College. We moved to Kew Garden Hills, which is a big Jewish community in the heart of Queens, in order to start this Chabad House. My husband is from Canada. He didn't even know that it was a Jewish community. We were
Wow.
told we're moving to Flushing. One of my friends kind of was like, no, Tzipah, the Jewish people call it Kew Garden Hills.
That's funny.
That's how we stumbled on living in the heart of an amazingly large and beautiful Jewish community, unwittingly, without even realizing. I'm mentioning because sometimes people will say, oh, did you, like, they kind of assume it's the opposite way. Like, we moved here first because it's an amazing community. And once we were here, since we're Chabad, we decided to, embark on the local campus, but it was actually the complete opposite direction. We didn't fully know what we were getting into, but I mean, we knew what we were getting into, but we didn't know the particulars.
And that's so nice. And so how long has the Chabad House been in place? Since 2004?
Yeah, since we started as in a rented apartment on Jewel Avenue, which is like a
Yes,
major
that's a
street.
main street. Yep.
Yeah, an artery that runs through this neighborhood, crisscrosses of Main Street. And our house now, our Chabad house is on Main Street, which is amazing. 3 blocks away from that apartment that we had rented. And yeah, we went to campus, we established ourselves as a student club, and we met a couple of students. We're still in touch with the students that we met in that year, 2004, 2005.
Wow. Wow. Oh
Yeah,
my God. They're in such a different
yeah,
stage in a lot. Like it's already like over 20 years. Yeah,
yeah,
over 20 years.
yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Like the impact of those first students, and I hear this from other campus shluchim for sure all the time. The impact that those first students that you meet in your first couple of years have on you is unparalleled. It's amazing. It's
I,
amazing.
I
Those
can imagine.
relationships become really core relationships that you didn't even realize you were establishing when you were establishing them.
That's so special both for you and for the students. It's really something. I wish more campuses in the United States had a Chabad house. Not every campus has a Chabad house, so I feel like it's really special when there is a Chabad on campus. It's
Yeah,
really meaningful, especially for the students who are away from home during the holidays and of course on Shabbos. It gives
right.
them like a home away from home. It's especially in the climate that we're in now. Like it just gives them like they're able to stay more grounded in their Judaism with your presence there. So I think it's something notable. So I just want to recognize you for
Yeah,
that.
Baruch Hashem. At Queens, it's interesting. The students aren't so far away from home. It is a commuter campus, so we have a lot of students that go back and forth. Um, and so their touch point isn't always like that home away from home piece or the Friday night dinners. It was in certain years at Queens College, but since COVID, there's been less of a student population in the neighborhood on Shabbos. So we've actually had to
Oh,
shift and do more weekday programming and daytime programming. It's like what do they say? No rest for the weary. Like you always have to change the product to meet the needs. Like you can't, there's, at least for us, there's no coasting.
right.
It's like the dynamics change, the student body changes, but the core of the work doesn't change. And we've met some amazing students. But when Shabbos was the one time, like the keynote program that we put our energy into, then it switched to Torah Tuesdays. Now we have a big emphasis on the classes that we teach, Jewish U, and so it's interesting, like it changes.
I love that. And I love that you're able to evolve with the needs of your population. So it's very,
Yeah,
it's
able to,
amazing.
forced to.
Hmm. Yes. And so, I'm really happy to be speaking with you today because you actually have a very interesting personal story to share that I believe will resonate with so many women. I feel strongly that when one woman shares her story, it gives so much hizuk, so much strength and hope to multitudes of women who may be going through the same thing. So that's really what I'm hoping to achieve today, to help women feel supported and empowered through your story. So I wanted to start from the beginning. So you shared with me before our interview that you gave birth to children who were stillborn. So I want to see if you can please share your story with us.
Sure. Okay. So there's a certain alum, I'll just mention her name now, but I'll send her, hopefully she'll appreciate, Leah. I was really close to her in those years, and she was our student president. So this was 2007, and we had an amazing student board. Like, I remember when we started that year, I was like, this is the dream team. Like, that had been just getting started till you came in 2004. At the end of, I guess, 2006, we'd built up this like dream team, and Matisyahu was like the superstar of the century at that
Yep.
time. They were like all joined the Chabad board because they thought that they were going to be bringing Matisyahu concert. It didn't actually happen, but it was a fun idea. So anyway, we were wrapping up the semester it was June of 2007, and probably May actually, and we're inching up to the last Shabbos of the year, and there was a horrible school shooting that had happened, and I thought to myself, let's do a Shabbos on the theme of why do bad things happen to good people, and so that was the theme of our thing. Sorry, I got distracted. I just wanted to turn off my phone. I thought I put it on plane mode, but I guess I didn't. Okay. Sorry.
It's all good.
Okay. So we invited a guest speaker to come, and then one of the students said that he had had a friend that unfortunately had passed away, and he wanted the Shabbos also to connect to that theme. So that was our theme. The only issue was that I was 9 months pregnant, and I wrote an email to the guest speaker, it's a good chance you'll be sharing a room with a mile, but like, whatever, we'll make it work. And that was how we went into Shabbos. As per my usual, my due date came, my due date went, and I was still pregnant. And so the doctor wanted me to go in for like a routine. It's called a biophysical, I think. It's a sonogram to make sure the baby's doing okay once you pass your due date. And it wasn't the first one because, like I said, the due date had already come and went. It was a few days late. It was a Friday morning. We're 7 days before this big Shabbat on campus. Why do bad things happen to good people? And my oldest was in preschool, and my next one, she was just under 2. So we brought her with us to the appointment, and we went into the room, and the stenographer is looking at the baby inside my stomach, and she says, "Oh, looks just like her," pointing to my daughter. And then she very awkwardly says, "Excuse me." And my husband and I both thought she had to go to the bathroom because it was like really awkward the way that she excused herself. And then the doctor came racing in the room, and in one sentence, he said, without skipping a beat, "When was the last time you felt the baby move? There's no heartbeat."
Oh my
And
gosh.
there was not even a pause between those two sentences, which was pretty intense because I mean, I don't even know if I need to finish why it was intense. I
It's
don't know
okay.
if
No,
you can
we
finish that
totally understand
sentence,
you. Yes, yes.
but many things about it were intense. But the lack of that pause really always like stung me because it felt as if there was a direct connection. Like you didn't feel the baby move. It almost felt as if there was like a therefore. There was no therefore. And it's true, I hadn't been feeling the baby move a lot, but everybody tells you, oh, like you don't feel the baby move, it's the end, there isn't much space for the baby moving. There's like lots of things going on when you're 9 months pregnant. So,
Yes.
and I had gone for a sonogram to check the baby, just a few days before. So right away, our hearts dropped. And was not the first phone call, but it was for sure one of the first phone calls within the first half hour or so. I called this girl, Leah, who I mentioned, our student president. And I can't believe looking back, I just had a birthday. I'm not so young anymore, but I can't believe looking back, I was 27 years old at the time. So I put this on the shoulders of like a 20-year-old. And I called her and I said, "Hi, Leah, we just lost the pregnancy. We just lost the baby and Shabbat is canceled."
Okay.
I put a lot on her shoulders. Poor girl. Bless
That's
her
okay. No,
heart.
it's understandable for sure.
And and I said to her, "Please don't tell the other students." I don't know why I said that. That's just what I said.
Okay.
And of course, we called our parents and we called mashpia, mentors that we're very close to. And Leah took that news very deeply. And I remember she spoke to her mother because thank God she needed somebody to, unload this
Of
on.
course.
Pretty
Yeah.
heavy news to be getting from me. And when she spoke to the other students, they refused to drop Shabbat on campus. And we had this little email forum. And I remember it was like 2 or 3 days later, my husband was like, "You got to read the emails from these students." And I remember this one student wrote, "We cannot, this is what Chabad is all about. We cannot cancel Shabbos. What if even just one student thinks that there's Shabbat on campus is happening and they show up?"
Right.
And I think he was like, if the Rebbetzin or the Wertheimers aren't able to do it, we're gonna do it together, Team Chabad. I don't know exactly what he wrote, but it was really intense. We were
Wow.
like shocked. And so the students literally put the whole Shabbos together on their own. It was for about 100 students. It was on campus.
So beautiful.
And like, there's a lot of bureaucracy at Queens College. I have no idea how this next piece fell into place, and it's nothing that has ever happened to us in 20 years. But the director of student life or somebody in the student life office said there's an excess money in the campus funding. Would
Wow.
Chabad like $1,000?
Oh my gosh.
So, or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember if that was the number, but it was like, what? So we catered the whole thing. That's all. That's the point. Like I didn't have to do any work. All I had to do was show up, and the students took care of every single detail of
Oh
that
my
Friday night
gosh.
dinner. We did cancel the guest speaker because clearly that wasn't really an option.
Right.
And then I remember later when the Shabbos actually happened, one of the girls said to me, "I'm so sorry. We didn't know what happened because I had instructed Leah, don't tell them."
Right.
They said, "We thought you guys had the baby and that's why you canceled Shabbos.
Ah,
If we
okay.
had only known, we never would have done this." But
I
it was the
understand.
most amazing thing ever. It was so uplifting. And my husband spoke from the depths of his heart about why bad things happen to good people. We definitely did not need a guest speaker for that.
Right.
And I remember thinking that we would always sort of say that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, spiritually speaking, gives us strength to do our shluchas. And I remember feeling like I had a new understanding of that phrase, that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gives us strength, comma, and the shluchas is what is the outcome of that. Not for the sake of, but that the strength that we're getting this strength, and this is what's being broadcast by the shluchas. Does that distinction, am I explaining that clear? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that was the most, I can't think of anything. I mean, I've told other people, they're like, "How in the world did you do that?" It's not, how did I do that? It's like that carried me.
Right. Right. It gave you the strength.
It's like when we learned about the Mishkan, that it was so incredibly heavy, but it's not that the Levium carried the Mishkan in the desert, it's that the Mishkan carried the Levium.
100%. Yes, yes, yes. Isn't that interesting how it works? It's such a spiritual thing. You can't explain it physically. You can't explain it logically. It's not a logical thing. It's such a spiritual thing. It's like the belief, like you were saying, like the strength from the Rebbe that you got from the Rebbe, that that kind of came out in your shlokas. That came out even in the Chabad students who put on the Shabbos dinner without you. Like they did it as a student body, and they were able to execute it. And even with this additional miracle of like the extra money
Right.
from I mean,
That was
that's
just
like
like a detail. I was like, what?
yeah, but you know what? It's so interesting because it's an important detail. I've worked with different colleges before, so I understand. It's not such an easy thing for a college to give anybody money for anything. So just like that was almost like a kiss from Hashem. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm not I mean, there definitely was a lot of sadness.
Yes. Oh, of course.
Definitely, there was a lot of sadness. And when you lose a pregnancy at 9 months, a
Yes.
lot of people know that you were pregnant. So it's
Right.
not really a private matter.
Right.
To some extent, it could be because, a lot of my friends, are virtual, I shouldn't say virtual, aren't local, so they don't see you day to day, things like that.
Yeah.
But in general, when you lose it at 9 months, people know that you're pregnant. So you have a lot
Right.
of people to answer to, and sometimes people accidentally say things like, "Oh, did you have the baby?"
Right.
So I never, ever, ever say things like that. And if I hear someone's pregnant, and I, know that like a couple weeks has passed, I might write to someone, "Hey, how's it going? How are you feeling?" But I'll never, ever, ever directly ask. Um, that's
Right.
just my own thing. And I don't really like when I was pregnant after that, I never really wanted like my picture posted pregnant for those reasons either. Like I never wanted to make such a public statement.
I totally understand that. I feel the same way. I never wanted people to know that I was pregnant. Like never. I had a miscarriage with my third pregnancy, but like a later term miscarriage. It wasn't right away. It was a little bit later. And even after that, I just never wanted people to know. I would be walking around 7 months. You can
Right.
tell that I'm pregnant,
Right.
and I would not even mention the pregnancy. It was very, very interesting because I remember one person said to me, it's something along the lines of like, I wanted to ask you if you were pregnant, but I saw so clearly that you didn't even want to mention it. Not that I was mean about it. There was nothing. I
Right.
just didn't. I just completely like because I didn't know it was going to happen, you know?
Right. 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 So yeah, I mean, I have had more losses, unfortunately, since that time. And I think that I wanted to share that story, but I don't want to gloss over the fact that there was like a lot of sadness. It was a very sad time. Shortly thereafter, Chabad on campus ran a 3-week trip to Israel for college students. And its first year, there were a lot of loose ends and a lot of chaos involved in the planning of that trip. But somewhere deep inside, I knew that that's what we needed to do. So I emailed anyone I could email from Chabad on campus that my husband and I were willing to go on the trip. They were
Oh,
like,
wow. Okay, that was 3 weeks later. Wow.
yeah, something like that, 3, 4 weeks.
Hmm.
So, like, I remember the first time I went to mikvah after having the loss was during that trip in Israel.
Okay.
So it was pretty quick. So we went with our then almost 4-year-old, and my daughter turned 2 during that trip.
Very
So
nice.
that was a little hectic and chaotic, but it was also very amazing for me because we ended up spending the first week of that trip in Sfat, which was such a soothing place. I did, as you mentioned in the intro, I went for a year to Machon Alta in Sfat after I graduated college. And it's such a special place for me. It's anyone who's been to the city of Tzfat probably knows it's just such a soothing, healing place. In the times of Tanakh, it was a city of refuge. You're
Yes.
Tzfat.
Hmm.
You sort of feel that in the air. A lot of people come there for healing, and there's something magical with the mountains. Plus, on a practical level, it meant I didn't have to walk around on Main Street, where literally Main Street where we live, not pregnant anymore. After
Right.
having been pregnant, sans baby. I
Right.
didn't really have to answer any questions. It was kind of like a clean break, and come back a month later, and you know the the conversation has changed. Now it's like, oh, how was your trip?
Of course. Right.
Everything has changed. Um,
But I do want to ask you because there are women who are like who are listening who maybe they just went through it recently or even a year ago. It still could be considered recent and raw to somebody who just went through this. I want to ask you how you dealt with your sadness because I know you of course it's a sad event like and how you dealt with your grief. Like how did you get through it? How did you get past it?
so there's a lot of different pieces that are interesting. I remember, first of all, I went to Binghamton, as I mentioned, so I was very, very close to the Chabad Shluchim, Rabbi and Rifki Slonim over there.
Yes.
So they were some of the first people that I called.
Yes.
And I remember that Rifki had told me, like, I had to, when we found out there was no heartbeat, I had to go to the hospital to induce the labor.
Right.
So my parents came and picked up the kids, and we went. And I even like had them at a babysitter, like a woman in the neighborhood that watched them sometimes. So my parents actually picked them up. Like we had to rush to the hospital. So my
Yes.
parents directly picked them up from a neighbor's house. I didn't even like see that. And as I was packing up my daughter's bag to go to my parents, and I'm putting these tiny little baby socks. And I was just like so grateful to Hashem that I had a baby and I had a stroller, that I
Right.
still had that. You know, she was just under 2 and she had this tiny little green stroller, not like the fancy stroller that you get for a baby, but you know, the toddler strollers. And
Yes.
I just remember being so grateful that we still had that in our life. And then
Right.
I remember Rifki had said to me, whatever pain reliever they're going to give you, take it. That the
Okay.
only reason, I don't know if this is a scientific fact, but this is just what she said. The reason people avoid pain relief is for the health of the baby, but there's nothing for you to worry about. And whatever pain relief they're going to give you, just take it. There's enough pain. You don't need any more pain. And that is a very deep statement. It's a very practical statement. And I just went to the hospital. I was like, give me what you've got, you know.
Right.
And the type of pain relief that she gave was not the epidural. It was like Demerol. I think it had a different name because it was the generic or something, Sentinel. I don't know exactly, but it was something that basically put me to sleep.
Okay.
And there was another Chabad shlucha in the Bronx that sent over food. I think it was Tamar Teitelbaum, and she sent over Friday night dinner. It was actually a Friday night. She sent over a tray of chicken. Obviously, we couldn't really eat, but my midwife really enjoyed her chicken. I was with an amazing midwife. She really rose to the hour.
Thank God.
And I don't remember much because I was very woozy. It was definitely really hard for my husband. And then at one point, the midwife was saying, push, push, push. And I did. And
Right.
then there was a splash. And then there was silence.
Right.
And I remember writing a little essay like called, just for myself, I didn't do anything with it, The Silent Splash. That's what there was. There was a splash and there was silence, you know? The most beautiful sound in the world is that scream, the baby's lungs activating that scream, that cry after birth. But when there's no cry, when there's silence, that's really, really sad, really deafening. And we didn't really know exactly what to do. So I felt like this is the time to lean into tradition. This is the time to lean into the Jewish way of doing things. I'm not carving my own path here. This is, you know, and from what I understood, and I'm not sure if this is, from what I understood, we're just going to go forward. We're going to go weiter. We're just going to keep going. We're going. We're not stopping. We're just going to keep going. And I remember we had the Chevra Kadisha come. They take care of everything. You just call the Chevra Kadisha. They work with the hospital and they take care of everything. The parents aren't involved. Misaskim is an amazing organization that does this as a chesed. At the time, we didn't know about them. We used like a different organization that we paid, but and then they gave us a choice of like a burial plot. And I remember thinking, like, wouldn't it be nice if this delivered baby could be buried near the Lubavitcher Rebbe? Would that be a
Right.
nice thing? I didn't know anything.
Right.
And we asked, and there was like a huge price difference between a plot near the Rebbe and another plot.
Yes.
And so I didn't know what to do because I thought my children, my Mendel, my Shoshi, who were, I said, almost 4 and almost 2 at the time, I have a lifetime of spending money on them. And yeah, it's true. Mendel's almost 22, Shoshi just turned 20. Yeah, I'm going to be
Yes.
spending money on them for a long time.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
So this is the only expense that I'm ever going to have for this child. So maybe let's do it. Like, there's no yeshiva tuition.
Right.
There's no weddings. There's no bar mitzvah.
Right.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
So I called Rabbi Shalom because I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And he told me, again, a very practical answer, but such depth to it that I feel like this has been such like this was such a meaningful conversation. He said, spend the money on Mendel and Shoshi.
Interesting.
Which I took to mean spend the money on life. Like spend the money on life.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And And that was like incredibly powerful. And that was, meant a lot to me and still does mean a lot to me. Which isn't like avoiding anything at all, chas v'shalom, but it's just where the emphasis should be. And I had a neighbor that I had hardly met. We just moved to the block, and I moved to the block pregnant. So like all the people that I just met see me with a big stomach, the whole thing. And I had just seen her walking up and down the block. She was like a very sophisticated, fancy lady. And she knocked on my door, and she right away told me that we're about the same age, that about 4 or 5 years ago, the same thing happened to her. It was
Wow.
actually her first pregnancy. And I saw she had a son, who at the time was about 5 or 6. And I know my numbers don't add up, but it's around,
It's okay.
all
It's all
that's
right.
around there. And that was very special. We had a very deep, meaningful conversation in that moment. And I got a lot of the sympathetic looks afterwards. And like I said, about 3 or 4 weeks later, we packed our bags and went to Israel, which made for a really nice, clean break.
Right.
And then the next 2 pregnancies, thank God, I have two more boys after that. Those pregnancies were really stressful.
Of course, because you didn't know what was going to be. Right. Exactly.
Really, really stressful. And I did stick with the same midwife who had risen to the occasion in the most incredible way possible for the delivery of the stillborn. But in all honesty, I wouldn't say she was the best person to go to in future pregnancies, because she was extremely nervous, and she was beside her. I think this was a little bit above her level of expertise to work with someone who had just had a loss, even
Right.
though there was actually no reason for the loss per se. And it wasn't, obviously I felt kind of uncomfortable that I went so past my due date, but I wasn't like way past it. And there really wasn't anything that could have been done differently. I mean, I
Right.
did all the sonograms that they asked for. Like I mean, I didn't feel like it was my fault, but the doctors don't like having things that they can't explain.
Right.
And so she sent me out to these perinatal specialists to consult with, because she wasn't willing to take on the case exclusively as a midwife,
I understand.
which was very intelligent and made perfect sense to me. So I was like, okay, this is great. I'm going to go with the warm midwife who's caring, and I'm going to go to the perinatalogist. Is that a dentist?
Perinatal. No,
Prenatal. No, no, no.
natologist. You're
Periodontist
good.
is a dentist. Okay, I got
Right.
the word right. I'm gonna go, they're gonna make the decisions. But what ended up happening is I had a practitioner that was nervous and doctors that didn't really care about me, because I was like coming in as a consult. So it was like the worst of both.
I
So that was really, really hard. So I would definitely suggest in the future, go to a doctor, a good doctor. That, as the Rebbe always said, a doctor who's a friend. Go to a doctor who cares about you. Not just that they have the emotional care, but they have the expertise to have confidence in the level of care that they're giving you.
That's so important because if a doctor is confident, if he knows what he's doing, if he has a direction, like we were talking before, go weiter, go forward. If a doctor has direction and confidence, then that gives the patient, that gives you confidence. And between the both of you, you trust each other and you build that confidence. And it's
Right.
just for you create just positive energy and it's for the benefit of the baby.
Right. Like she would say things like, "Oh, you're so nervous," but like, and I would take it to heart. I was young, so I was just like, of course I'm nervous. I just had a
Yes,
son and now I'm in another pregnancy."
of
But the
course.
reality is, she was nervous,
A hundred
like,
percent, a
and
hundred
so
percent.
that
Yes.
was not so great.
Right.
But I did have, another two, thank God. They were both inductions, because the specialist that I was consulting with had said that because of my stillborn, I should be induced at 39 weeks.
Okay.
Which might not be what every doctor would say. And maybe if I'd went to like a doctor that had more expertise, they would have actually let me go into labor naturally, because I didn't have a physical issue.
Right.
It just happened. These things,
Yes.
unfortunately, these things happen.
Yes.
And so then I had those 2 pregnancies, thank God. And then I had another pregnancy after my now 15-year-old was born. And at this point, that my 15-year-old was an induction at 39 weeks, but it ended up being a C-section after like a long labor, and it just didn't really go exactly how I felt like it should have gone. And I still with that same midwife, but she was even more nervous. So she put me with her partner for delivery, who really, I didn't feel like handled the delivery well. Like it just wasn't a great situation. And thank God the surgeon was available to do the C-section.
Yes, thank God.
And when I asked him, like, when I said to him at the postnatal, thank you so much for, saving this pregnancy and doing the C-section at the last minute, I was like, I was in the process of pushing when they realized that the baby was stuck in my pelvis and needed to be taken out with the C-section. He said to me, yeah, it was great. I mean, I had just come off a shift and I was available. And I thought to myself, I am never putting myself to chance again that the doctor is available. I am going to a doctor that is, for me, not a doctor that is available because he just finished his shift. Like I felt
Right.
like I'm never doing this again.
Right.
So I did. I went to a high risk specialist, and around, I don't know, 15, 16 weeks when we were doing the sonograms. And just for context, in Lubavitch, a lot of women don't take sonograms
Okay.
because there were some statements. I've never really seen it written, but I know from just hearing people say that you shouldn't take a sonogram unless it's medically necessary. So this new world of sonograms was new to me.
Right.
Like now, once I had the losses, of course, there was medically necessary. There's really not that much to talk about.
Right.
But this world of, it wasn't my comfort zone, every sonogram. And then I did have that sonogram where they told me there's no heartbeat. So
Right.
I like every single sonogram after that for a long time, I would give a warning. I got really bad news during a sonogram. I need a lot of reassurance.
Okay.
I would say
Okay.
that to the doctor. I mean, even like my son who just turned 17, so let's back up a little bit. During one of the sonograms, they told me that there is a shadow, or there might be something with his heart.
Okay.
And I was really, really nervous. That was again
Of
at the
course.
perinatal specialists that were like, I was just a consult patient. I wasn't their actual patient.
Right.
And they sent me to get an echocardiogram for him, and prenatal, I guess, echocardiogram. So when I went, the doctors were amazing. And I was like, listen, I got really bad news. This was the first pregnancy after the stillborn. I got really bad
Right.
news during a sonogram. And the whole time they were like, everything is good. Everything, the whole every phrase was with reassurance, reassurance, reassurance.
Thank God.
So I put that out there. And I remember also the midwife told me, you're going to be getting tons of sonograms. So if you don't want to know the gender, you got to tell somebody up front.
Right. Right. That's right.
So I was both of those things. I don't want to know the gender, and I got really bad news in a sonogram. I need lots of reassurance, like no shame. Like
It's good that you were
I
vocal
am,
about it. It's really good that you were able to say it. That's, I think, amazing. You were advocating for yourself. It's fantastic.
yeah, I have a need right now. I'm just going to tell you what it is, and now you
Right.
can now you can take care of filling it.
Right.
So anyway, so I got one of these sonograms around 15, 16 weeks. I don't remember exactly, and this was post that emergency C-section, and my cervix was highly dilated. I don't have like a number to tell you, but it was very, very dilated.
Hmm.
And she said, like, we're gonna have to stitch up your cervix. So I was extremely nervous about that.
Of course.
And I went to the hospital shortly thereafter, and I did have the stitch put in at about 16 weeks. And it lasted for about 4 weeks until my body went into labor. And there wasn't really anything I could do about that. And they, of course, have to take the stitch out in order, I shouldn't say of course, they do take the stitch out in order for the baby to come out, because if they don't, the baby will come out. That's nature, the baby's coming out. But it's going to be, you're going to rip and tear. It's going to be very
Right.
uncomfortable. So again, I had a lot of medication that made me very, very drowsy, and I don't have like the clearest memory of that delivery. But it was very sad. It was very sad.
I'm
And
sorry.
it was a hard time. It was a very hard time. And the doctor, again, I wasn't so excited about. I was kind of felt like she was very harsh, and she was a high risk specialist, and it was one doctor, but still, I just, it wasn't the most comfortable situation. But again, we're gonna go weiter. We're just gonna do this. We're just gonna go, 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 go. And I got pregnant again.
Okay.
And this time I switched to a doctor that was what I guess, for lack of a better word, you'd call a baby factory in Borough
Okay.
Park. And it was a very frum area, tons of frum women, in, out, in, out. And he said to me, look, you're just a regular woman with a miserable obstetrical past. And I was like, check. Yeah, that's what I want to hear. There's nothing wrong with you. I had a stillborn that we can't explain. I had, thank God at the time, I had 4 amazing kids. They're all healthy. Now, what seems happened was I was having a miscarriage, but this doctor jumped in and said, let's stitch up your cervix, and didn't let my body miscarry. That was my assessment of what was going on. And so we're going to just do this again. And he's like, if you come to me, I'm going to treat you like a completely normal woman. And we're just going to go through pregnancy. There's nothing wrong with you. You're completely fine.
Right.
I'm like, good. That's what I want to hear. Check. So that's what we did. And I remember around 20 weeks pregnant, I went to Florida, and Chabad on campus had another trip to Florida that I was part of, that I was going. Well, it was called a Shrenu retreat.
Nice.
That was showing up around my 24th week of pregnancy. But my husband and I went a month before for some reason, or 3 weeks before. No, it wasn't even, it was like 2.5 weeks before, the right before. I forgot why we had the back-to-back trips, but there was a reason like that. It just worked out that way. And I was like, I guess I'm like some fancy lady that I'm just constantly, jetting places. And so we went to Florida, and we stayed at this cute little hotel that had these fancy looking tropical birds that they let them like land on your wrist if you put it up.
Oh, yes.
So I did that. I got this red bird on my arm, and we took a picture. And I'm pregnant, and my stomach is showing. And I posted to Facebook. I broke my rule. I've been through so much. Let me just enjoy the nachas of being pregnant.
Right.
I got home from Florida, and it was a couple days before Shabbos. We had our Shabbos meal. I was very uncomfortable at the table. Like, my back kept hurting, but I'm pregnant. Like,
Right. Right.
and I remember I went to the couch because I was very uncomfortable. I'm like switching the pillow around. I had a friend over who was like an awesome, amazing friend, and she's like a little bit more natural, and she just had some ideas of how to get me more comfortable, and how to like be comfortable in your body.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then Motzei Shabbos, I ended up getting stomach cramps. So I called the doctor, and then they said, come into the hospital. And then stomach cramps got really, really, really bad. I'm drinking like an herbal tea as if that's going to do something. And just before we leave to the hospital, I'm like, oh, I just have to go to the bathroom, and my water broke. I'm 24
Oh,
weeks-ish,
yeah.
maybe 23. And so we race to the hospital, and by the time I get there, water is gushing down my legs. Like, there's nothing really to talk about. And I mean, there was nothing to talk about. I mean, I went to triage, and the doctor, not the one I'd been seeing, but this other doctor had said to me, we really don't want to do a C-section, because like, it's one thing to have a C-section and come home with a vibrant baby, thank
Right.
God. It's another thing to have a C-section, and there's
Right.
nothing sadder than coming home from the hospital with your suitcase,
Right.
and that's it.
Right.
So she just said, can you push? So I did. And that's what happened. I pushed. I believe that both of the 2 stillborns were actually delivered 2 years apart on the same day, a Sarvatavis, which is a sad day, a fast day. I do try to fast every year on that day. I mean, I always try to fast on the fast days, but that's not a very hard one anyway, because it's in the middle of the winter. But it gives me a little extra something to be fasting for.
Right.
And that was the story. But we keep going, we keep going, and the book is not ending low note. It's not happening, and it's just not, it's just like, that's not going to be the end of my story. Like,
For sure
my
not.
story's not ending that way.
No.
Um,
I mean, I'm so sorry that you went through that. Like, let me just say, like, I'm so sorry that you went through that. Like, I feel for you. Like when you talk, like I'm tearing up. Like, I really, like, I genuinely feel for you. And I'm so glad that you had the support, your husband's support, your parents' support, the support from your family, and the support for your community. But here's an interesting question, because when people go through things like, similar to what you went through, everybody has a different reaction, and of course, it's all understandable. But what was your reaction like with Hashem? Were you angry with Hashem? How did you feel toward Hashem? Like, what was your relationship with him at that time?
So that's a good question. Hope I didn't go on too much with all the details. I don't know if there's
No,
any point in
no.
recollecting. That's just how it all played out. I remember my first thought was, what, Tzipah? Like, what? You didn't know that bad things happened? Like, are you like this? For me, now I'm going to my first stillborn. This was the first bad thing that ever happened in my life. Nothing bad had ever happened to me until that moment. Which isn't to say I didn't have disappointments. It doesn't, I mean, I had a car accident when I was 16. I mean, you know, like I had a regular life, but thank God I have loving parents, a nice family, I have so many wonderful friends, people in my life. I got married to an amazing person, and you know,
You're so
everything just,
blessed.
yeah, like so many blessings. So this was literally the first bad thing that ever happened in my entire life.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you know? What do you think? The Holocaust didn't happen? You knew the Holocaust happened. Like, how could you not know that bad things happen? Like, bad things happen. So I had this Rebbetzin, Mrs. Sarah Kaplan, that I was really enamored by from my time in Svat. She the head shlucha, the head Chabad Rebbetzin of the city of Svat. And her husband passed away very, very tragically. I believe it was about 5 years before I met her. And she was definitely a person that understood loss and grief and pain. And I called her because, like, who else am I, you know, like, what else am I going to do? So I called her.
Right?
And as I said, I ended up getting sort of whisked away to the city of Svat, like about 3-4 weeks after this happened, to this Chabad on campus trip, which was amazing. And I sat in her home and we spoke again. But I called her within that first week, and I asked her, like, I understand, I get it. Like, everything that Hashem does is good. I understand. Can you just
Yeah.
explain that to me? Like, I'm not bucking against that principle. I just need some insight.
Right.
And she said to me that that idea that every single thing is good is the perspective of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest,
Okay.
and only the Kohen Gadol, because only the Kohen Gadol can see the entire picture. Only one incredibly elevated, spiritually aligned individual of the generation can see everything, can see that the Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah, that the descent for the sake of the ascent, they see it in one piece, the descent and the ascent as one whole. But us, regular humans, we feel pain and we feel loss and we feel grief. And what's the proof? The Torah has explicit mitzvahs and guidelines for how to grieve, for how to mourn. We have a whole year
Right.
of mourning. We have a whole year. We have a week of Shiva. We have a month of Shiva. We have so much there that that the human perspective is that we feel pain and we feel loss, and it hurts
Yes.
and it's sad.
Yes.
And that was very, very helpful for me to put that into perspective. So I guess I would say that I felt like Hashem was crying with me. Like I felt Hashem very deeply in my life in that moment. I felt very spiritually aligned, which I've spoken to some friends about it. And it's interesting. It's not such a unique thing to sometimes, in the face of an extremely dramatic event, even if the event is negative or sad or heartbreaking, but to feel Hashem's presence in that moment from the sheer drama of the experience.
Right. I think if it almost makes it more tangible. Like you can almost feel it more. I know it sounds a little bit interesting to say, but like you can almost feel him more in those times when things are so much more pronounced, more dramatic, more chaotic, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah. So not everything that happens can be understood. You know, that's
Right.
something, that's a very deep principle that I've thought about a lot. I'm preparing this class about, which I'm really excited about actually, about faith during the Holocaust and halacha questions that were asked in the ghetto. It's fascinating. But one of the pieces that I want to bring in that I think about a lot is a letter that I once read that the Rebbe wrote to someone asking about why did the Holocaust happen? Or how could God have allowed the Holocaust? And I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have the letter in front of me.
Yeah.
And basically, what the Rebbe writes after empathizing and relating very much to the pain and the sorrow that the question is prompted from, is that the fact that we don't have the answer to that question means that we don't need the answer to that question to do what we need to do in this world.
Interesting.
Which is so, I think, so profound. We're not gonna dance around to pretend that we have the answer to an unanswerable question. We're not gonna do that. But you have a purpose in this world, and you're here for a reason, and there's meaning to your existence. And that nugget of information that's inaccessible, it's not humanly accessible, that information, that piece.
Right.
Therefore, you don't need it to do what you need to do. You
I
know, if
think
you get
that's so
IKEA
powerful.
furniture and there's
Yes.
like a piece missing, okay, IKEA is not God, but let's pretend it's godly furniture, and there's a piece not in the box, then you don't need that piece to build the dresser. I mean, maybe you do, because IKEA, you know, makes it.
It's true. It's so funny, but it's so powerful. You don't need to understand everything in order to move forward. Like just because you don't have the answer to something doesn't mean you have to stay stuck in that place, unable to move forward, unable to go, unable to progress. I think that's it's so the key to I think everything that you've been saying because you don't know. You said yourself like with your first stillborn, there was no medical reason. There was nothing wrong with you. Nothing. The test didn't show anything was wrong with the baby beforehand. It just happened. Why
Right,
it happened, the doctors don't know. You don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. But the fact is that you don't need to know. You don't need to understand everything to move forward. And like I think it's so crucial because I feel like people get stuck. Sometimes something bad happens. It doesn't necessarily need to be exactly what you went through. But I mean, people suffer loss of all. It could be divorce. It could be financial loss. It could be they could lose anything. It could be something so dramatic that happens to them, something that affects them so profoundly, but they're not able to move on and they stay stuck. But
right,
what you're saying is that you don't need to stay stuck. Just because something happened to you and you don't understand why it happened doesn't mean that you can't move on and you can't have a good, productive, meaningful life. Because, like you said, we're all here for a purpose.
right. I was gonna jump in and say it's
Yes.
not just about being unstuck. It's also about your purpose. My
Right.
purpose is a lot more than being unstuck, you know?
Right. Of course.
I know we're like, you know, getting
Let's
to the
wrap
end
up
of
in a few
the times. I
minutes.
do want to finish on another note.
Yes.
Um, that I did go forward, and the second
Yes.
two losses, just for sake of clarity, that they were both after around 22 weeks or so. They were probably, I can't prove exactly, connected to this difficult C-section that I had. And I want to move forward. I did have another baby. It was a tremendous miracle. It was a big miracle. I just quickly share that miracle because I
Please.
think it's
Please.
an exciting story. I got pregnant. I went to Dr. Victor Rosenberg, incredible high-risk specialist in Long Island. I'm happy to drop his name. And he said to me, if you were to get pregnant with me, like we're gonna analyze all the losses. We're gonna do a case study. We're gonna, he was extremely reassuring, incredibly non-judgmental. And when I told him all the different, things that had happened, he was like, every decision you made based on the information that you had at the time is exactly what I would have done. Like really supportive and nice. So I got pregnant. And just in time, I took the pregnancy test the morning of my second consult with him. And I told him, he was like, oh, okay.
That's so funny.
So I don't have, thank God, I don't seem to have struggled with fertility in terms of getting pregnant, but I definitely have struggled with bringing neshamas into this world. And so that we like fast tracked whatever he had in mind. And he had said, we want to stitch up your cervix at 12 weeks preemptive. So I scheduled that consult for the only issue was the campus kinnis. It was
Oh,
coming up,
yes.
the campus Chabad on campus convention.
Yes.
So he said, listen, this is really important. When's your convention? He was such a mensch. I think it was like Tuesday to Thursday. He's like, okay, so come in Monday before the convention, or come in, I think Tuesday morning or Monday morning, whatever it was, Monday to Thursday, whatever. Come in and then we'll stitch you up and you'll be home for Shabbos. But you'll come in for a pre-op and a couple days later, we'll stitch you up right after the convention. Like he worked around me. Fine. And it was even a week early because the doctors are going vacation, whatever. So
Amazing.
I came in, my husband took the kids to the convention. It was 4 kids at the time. I came in and his office, thank God, was at the time in an annex at the hospital. It was a private doctor office, but it's connected to the hospital. And he was like, wow, we got to take you into the hospital. So I went to the hospital and I'm 12 weeks pregnant and 80% dilated,
Oh my goodness.
which is not good news. And he's like, I just don't know if there's enough cervix left to stitch. And I want my head doctor to take another exam, and they all take an exam and they just don't see that they can put a stitch in. So I'm 12 weeks pregnant. I've got 6 months left to this pregnancy. They want to know if I can maybe try not to stand. It's like
Right.
stand.
Bed rest.
That's
Exactly. I
six
know.
months.
Yes.
So there's nothing else I can do. I drove home, and my husband actually left the kids at the convention. It wasn't so far. It was in Connecticut. We live in Queens. It wasn't so far. He actually came home, picked me up, and we went together to the convention. And there's nothing I can do. There's nothing to do. So it's my birthday, and I'm telling everybody I need a lot of brachas. I need a lot of brachas. And I got a lot of attention because my husband ordered me a cake, and there was a mix up with the caterer. So they actually gave me 2 cakes at 2 different
Oh my
times.
goodness.
So tons and tons of people are giving me brachas. Everyone that says happy birthday, I'm like, I need a bracha. And normally we don't talk about pregnancy so early on. I was like, this is what's going on with me. I'm 12 weeks. I'm 80% dilated. I need a bracha. I
Right.
got so many brachas during that convention.
Amazing.
So many brachas. And then someone
Amazing.
else had made like a roundtable discussion for a very select few people about pregnancy loss. I went to that. I shared my story. They all gave me boatloads of brachas. And then the doctor called me at the convention. I mean, on my cell phone. I never had a doctor do that. And he
No.
said, listen, I want you to see Jessica Jacob tomorrow. Whatever it was, like right after the convention. So I went to Jessica Jacob, also Long Island, amazing doctor. And she was like, let me do an exam. She said to me, I don't see anything wrong. I want you to see Dr. Fleischer tomorrow. And so I called right away, but her office double checked with me because they clearly pulled strings to get me this appointment. So I went to Dr. Fleischer, and they said to me, look, he's gotta be in 3 places at the same time. He's the head of the department. You're gonna have to be prepared to wait, but we squeezed you in.
Okay.
I got to this appointment, and within like minutes of getting there, I see a very important looking person come into the office, and I hear the front desk scrambling. Is she here? Is she here? Yeah, yeah, check her in, check her in. Clearly the doctor had just walked in. They didn't want to waste a second of his precious time. And he did the sonogram, and he said to me, words I'll never forget, I think it can be done.
Baruch
And I
Hashem.
said to him, doctor, thank you so much for seeing me. And he said, you know people in high places. And that was actually on the Rebbe's yurt site on Gimel Tammuz.
Amazing. Wow.
And that was Gimel. So Daled Hey, he did the procedure. Hey Tammuz, and then Vav Teves, I delivered the baby. So 6 months later.
Oh my gosh.
So thank God I have a very vibrant 10-year-old. He's the
Thank
light of
God.
our life, and
Thank
he's
God.
a tremendous bracha. And I just remember I was like, this is not, that was not going to be the end of my story. We're not ending like that.
No. And I give you so much credit, like just for not ending like that, for like not, not giving up and not like just curling up in bed and calling it quits, like just for persevering and just for moving forward. Like there's so much to be said for moving forward. I can't underscore that enough. Like just move forward because you never know what can happen. Once you go on the path is illuminated for you. And then you could see a little bit more, and then a little bit more of the path is illuminated. You just have to go forward. You have to take the next step. And you did that. And you did that so beautifully and so bravely. And I just really want to recognize you for that. And it's so inspiring and so powerful to hear your story. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity to share. I really enjoyed sharing, and not everyone, thank God, I've been given a lot of brachas along the way, and thank
Thank
God.
Thank you. So many blessings. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on America's Top Rebbetzins. And in the merit of this class, may Hashem watch over all the Jewish people and give him enormous strength, the IDF soldiers, including Eliezer Raphael ben Emunah, Ishai ben Zohar, Israel, and Ben Bella. Thank you so much again.
Okay, thank you.